Keith Miller. I'm a social worker and the host of the Soul of Life podcast. Welcome to this special class, which is stress reduction, a heart prayer for our communities. I'm doing this today on Inauguration Day, a symbolic day for our country, and something that I'm just started doing here, leading these free classes for everyone every week, Fridays at noon Eastern time. And I decided after kicking this off last week for the first time on Friday, decided why not offer this in the evening? Hopefully we can pull in some folks from across the country, West Coast, and people that might find it easier to be here in the evenings. So I'm going to just give a little bit of an introduction to what IFS is and the kind of things that we'll be doing here today. I'll teach a short lesson on anger and having an open heart. We'll sort of lead what I call a heart prayer for our communities, and kind of a way of opening our hearts and aiming for positive inspiration and kind of pointing ourselves in the right direction. So I've been a social worker for 20 years, and I'm an IFS therapist. IFS is internal family systems therapy, and I'll be teaching a small concept from that every week. Basically, it's a way of working with parts of the psyche that act as though they're subpersonalities. Part of me wants to, watch news right now and watch Bruce Springsteen and Katy Perry. But a part of me wants to be here with you. So that's a way of kind of noticing the different parts of us. We have these subpersonalities or mind states that sometimes get into conflict with each other. And so what I'll be doing today is guiding us through a way of focusing on specific parts. And I'll be teaching a little bit. Spend 10 minutes here just teaching about specifically anger. Today we'll be talking about anger. And I'll be leading a guided meditation for 15 minutes. And then there'll be questions at the end. So I encourage you to pop into the chat if you have questions. If you want to just respond to something I'm saying, that's a great way to let me know that you're there. And I see people are joining us. So great to see you tonight. So unlike typical meditation, where instruction is usually pivoting around kind of helping you just relax and detach from things, IFS is one of these evidence-based models of therapy that helps you mindfully engage with parts of you and work with them and help you separate from those parts so that you can get more space and have more options. So you can have more awareness and more control over where you want to direct your attention. And so, excuse me, we'll be going through that today. And I wanted to talk about anger specifically because the goal here today in this meditation is to connect with what anger is protecting us from and give you a chance to release what we call in IFS burdens, things that you've been carrying in your anger that you think you need to carry but really don't have to. And I felt like this is a timely way to do this at this point in time. A lot of people come to me and talk about the stress that they feel in the news by being asked or sort of being motivated by anger. And what I want to highlight today is that anger has a cost. I think it's incredibly dangerous to our mental health and our spiritual health. There's ways to inspire others to support you without using anger to reject something or somebody. And so it's costly to our nervous system. And so what do I mean by that? Often anger is tied to the fight or flight response. It's a very primitive part of our brainstem, and it can be sort of addictive because actually sometimes it works. It occasionally gets us through something. It pushes us. It can motivate us. It really can win. We can get our way sometimes with anger. Sometimes we can get through things that are impossible to get through. And today's meditation will help you work with that anger or maybe even hatred. And bring in more light in life and vision to make creative things happen without as much effort and without as much work. So the most common way people work with anger is that we try to get rid of it. We try to manage our anger and maybe find your better angels or something. But actually, we're not going to do that. So why wouldn't we try to get rid of our anger? Well, if you've maybe heard the saying in mindfulness, if you're angry at your anger, then you have two angers, right? And we know that the body keeps the score in mental health, and in the trauma work, we have this saying, the body keeps the score. So if you try to get rid of your anger, your body is going to get more stressed out. And eventually we get sick. Sometimes our body starts breaking down. We have symptoms of anxiety or depression. So instead of trying to get rid of our anger or disliking our anger, the term I use in IFS is being an orchestra conductor. So I'm going to help you get in touch with a way to respect your anger. Anger does an important job for us. And so we're going to be curious about our anger. What is the job it's doing? What is your anger protecting you from? And in IFS therapy, the term we use for anger is a protector. And specifically, often it's what we call a firefighter. And firefighters, rush in to put out the flames and just make things stop, right? Things have gotten out of control and the flames are going. And firefighters just at all costs make it stop. And anger has that same kind of way of working in our nervous system. It just puts away emotional pain. It just makes it stop. We can focus our anger on someone else, scapegoat them, criticize them, and then it prevents us from feeling feelings that we don't want to feel, feelings that make us feel uncomfortable or maybe vulnerable, feelings like embarrassment or powerlessness, feeling sad, feeling lonely, feeling rejected. Those are all things we don't really like to talk about. But the good news is that all of our parts belong inside of us. You heard me speak on the previous meditation I did last week and talking about our emotions and our mind states. All of the parts of you belong there, kind of like the notes on a keyboard, or maybe like the parts of an orchestra. We don't have to get angry at them if they're not in tune, or if they're causing us problems, if they're making us sick, if we're getting stressed out. It's not going to help us to get more angry and more stressed at these parts of us. So there's no bad feelings. All parts are welcome. And that's such an important IFS, internal family systems concept. All parts are welcome. That includes the protectors, like anger or criticism, judgment of someone else, a desire to get away from something, revulsion, we don't like it. That's protecting us from something. Well, what's also welcome inside of us is the things that are being protected. And those are the exiles, like I mentioned. So today, as we begin to turn our attention towards the meditation, I'm going to be guiding you to focus on different parts of you. Sometimes we use imagery to do that, and begin to open up more space inside of you for really a more variety of your feelings. And of course, there'll be room for questions. So I invite you to pop in and mention why you're here. If you're willing to do that, pop in on the chat and say hi, give me a thumbs up if this is what you're looking for, if this is helpful, and the reason that you came tonight. So I'm glad to see people are here with us, and appreciate everyone being here. We'll close tonight with what I call a heart prayer. Mindfulness, it's sort of like a wishing and kind of a casting of a vision. Which is such an important thing that I think we lose if you don't have a religious faith. Sometimes you can feel like there isn't a way to be hopeful. Finding a spiritual practice is so important for our health, and so I think this will be one way to do that as a community, as people together gathered here on such an important day. Of course, there's other things that people can be watching right now in the news, and if you're like me, you've had the TV on probably a little too much today. And I think our bodies begin to feel that when we're putting our attention outside on other things. Our bodies keep the score. We begin to notice that there's some stress or some discomfort. We don't really know what it is. So as we begin to settle now and turn our attention inward, I'll invite you to close your eyes if you're comfortable doing that. You can begin to just scan your body, noticing what's here for you this evening. And they can be sensations, thoughts, feelings. And just noticing. I'll be asking you to notice what's there without trying to change it. That's really one of the definitions of mindfulness. Paying attention on purpose without reacting to it, without trying to change it. So as you begin noticing, just take a few moments and see what's here. You may close your eyes. You certainly don't have to. You can keep your eyes open, kind of soft focus somewhere. Just beginning to feel your breath coming in and out. Maybe you feel the temperature of the room, a warmth or a coolness. And if there is a part of you that you notice that maybe something that has an agenda, sometimes we look for parts because we can tell that they have an agenda. There's something that's getting our attention. Just notice what's getting your attention right now as you're sitting. And you might just give that part of you full attention. It may be something that needs to get done. Just ask it to step aside once you've given it full attention and allow your presence to be here. And so I'll invite you now to bring to mind the part of you that may feel anger or may feel an emotion that may be difficult for you. It doesn't have to be anger. Just allow yourself to, almost as if you're opening a door to your room, you're going into that room. It may have something to do with the news or the things that you've been following in our culture. For some of you, it may be relief today, but some of you, it may be stress and tension. Knowing that there's continued battles that are happening all around us, people in conflict. And notice what that triggers for you. And see how it feels to be in the same room with that part of you. Are you interested in this part? Or does it cause you to want to turn away? Or is there a distraction that comes up? So see if you can maintain your focus on that part of you. And maybe you have to engage with another part of you that doesn't like the anger. See if it's willing to give you some space. And you may find that images begin to come to mind. You may see, some people are able to see these parts as though they are kind of real or images, and that may be a sign that the right brain is activating. You're able to sort of be more metaphorical with this part of you. Other times, this is like literally a thought pattern. It's a series of thoughts or impulses. If that's the case, you may just notice what those impulses are and let them know that they're welcome. And if you're able to get a little closer to this part of you, this anger, you might be curious about it. You might extend curiosity towards it. And notice what begins to come back to you. Notice what emerges and unfolds as you are extending curiosity to this part of you, almost like you might have a conversation with a friend. you may ask it, what is it there protecting? Or what job is it doing for you? And listen to the answer that comes back. When did it start doing this job for you? It may share a story or a scene that you're in from the past. And if you're still open to it, let it know you see that it's stuck there. And you may extend compassion to it. And just see how it responds to your compassion, to your curiosity. Some of you may already be noticing how these parts can begin to change as your relationship to them is more open and less anxious, less critical. That the parts may reveal themselves to be a little more complicated than just anger. There may be more to the story. So you may begin to ask, what would happen if this anger were to step aside and move out of the way and not be there? What's the risk? And you may begin to feel emotions and sensations come forward. See if you can just witness what those are. There's room in your body for all sensations. And is there something that this part of you, this anger that's protecting you, needs in order to relax more fully and give you more space? And perhaps it's able to relax and you're able to move on to what it's protecting. Maybe you can visualize the exiles, the parts that are being protected. Maybe you feel them in your body. Everyone's a little different with this. And if you're lost and not keeping track of where I am, that's okay too, because that happens. It can be a little difficult to do a guided meditation with parts without being able to see what's happening and get feedback about where people are at. So this is just a guide, sort of a template. And if it feels safe to feel some of the feelings that are behind the anger, that may be vulnerable. Sometimes there's confusion or emptiness. A lot of people describe it as a sort of a blank space. That's okay. Just allowing yourself to be patient with what's here. Usually what we find with our parts is that what they appear to be at first is just a tiny little bit of what they really are. And there's a lot more to them as we notice and are encouraged to just sit with them and listen. So it's almost as if you're asking for the vulnerable parts the feelings that you might not normally feel safe to feel or admit to yourself, to come forward that it's safe, even if they're fragments and things that don't make a lot of sense. That's often what some of these exiles feel and look like. They can feel like much younger parts of us that we prefer not to embody and experience as adults. But they can also carry with them the ability to be spontaneous and joyful and playful, all the other things that we feel when we're in touch with our full range of emotions. So if it's possible to just open the door a little bit more to some of those things that are being protected by this anger or judgment for someone else in your life or group of people in your life. And often we're making a deal with the protectors. We're saying it doesn't have to go away permanently. We're not chasing away that anger. It's serving a purpose. And it can come right back if it's needed. And the question we're asking is, how much do you really need it? How much do you need that protector? Has the situation changed? Are there ways in which you can handle what's going on? You may be able to handle some of the complex emotions that maybe you weren't able to at a different point in your life, maybe when you were much younger. And so in a few moments, we'll begin to sort of bring our attention back to the outside. So just taking the time here to check in with any parts that may want attention from you after this time of focusing. And that can be through a journal practice or by sharing it with a friend. Just make an intention to connect with that part of you at another time. And so as you're still keeping your focus kind of internally, I'll invite you to kind of find your heart. And maybe it feels a little lighter, hopefully. Maybe it's a little more accessible, a little more open. And I'll just guide you and give you a form of what I call a heart prayer that you may sort of echo and repeat from your heart. And notice how it affects you. Notice how it responds, how you respond, how you feel in your body. The first is, may all of my parts, all of my feelings and thoughts and sensations be cared for, nourished and loved. And now, may all of my family be cared for, nourished and loved. You may begin to imagine this sort of a beam of light extending from you inside of you towards your family members. May they be nourished, cared for, and loved. And now extending that beam of light or circle of light even wider. May all of my neighbors and coworkers be cared for, nourished, and loved. And without effort, trusting that this meditation of our heart can extend from all of us. May all of our town, may all of the people in our city be cared for, nourished, and loved. May all of the people in our country be cared for, nourished, and loved. And finally, may all of the people in the world and all of nature and life itself be cared for, nourished, and loved. Amen. So we'll pause the meditation here at this point, and I want to encourage people to share even one little bit about some effect that this may have had on you, and something that you may, if you're willing to share it, of course you don't have to, some impact that this has had on you, or a question that you have. Could be a technical question about IFS. Really want to appreciate the people here tonight, seeing the activity, and appreciate that. Yeah, what's one thing that you've learned about yourself, or a question that you have for me? I want to say that I'll be here every Friday at noon Eastern time, and looking forward to doing this each week. So you can be sure we'll be covering a different topic each week, but it'll be pivoting around IFS and meditation. And also looking forward to, by the way, some new episodes in season 2 of The Soul of Life. Really excited about upcoming episodes. One of my interviews next week is with Jessica Hansen. She's NPR's voice coach and the voice of the funding credits on NPR. And an episode with John Mather, senior astrophysicist of NASA, Goddard Space Flight Center, talking about the very first light, looking back at the light visible from the Big Bang, and astronomy, and some of his achievements as a Nobel Prize laureate. So that's exciting, starting February 5th on The Soul of Life. And this is an exciting thing for me to be doing, to kind of share with people and get to know people through offering this free meditation. So certainly you can always reach out to me. I want to encourage you, if you haven't already, subscribe to the Soul of Life YouTube channel. That way you'll get updates about these live events. And also like this post and like my Facebook page on the Soul of Life. And that way, of course, you'll get updates and other people will be able to see this. So really appreciate everybody here. And if there's a topic that you want to hear about, or a lesson that you'd like to hear about on this meditation, love to hear your feedback. Let me know how this went for you. Thank you so much for being here tonight, and namaste to everyone. Have a great evening.